Welcome to another edition of Radio Influencers, a podcast series we're doing for Radio Update. I'm your host, Andy Meadows. On today's episode, we're going to ask and answer the question, what is a studio? But first, let's look at the results from our recent Radio Update polls. In last week's Weekly Wire poll, we asked a question inspired by last week's Less Employees, Better Employees episode of this podcast. We asked, a year from now, will your station or group have less employees or more employees? Not surprisingly, 2/3 said less and 1/3 said more. Let's hope for the industry's sake that those are the right employees. One way to help your employees step up their content game is by using tools like Radio Content Pro. Radio Content Pro is the AI-powered show prep service that saves talent hours of prep time each day. It uses AI trained on radio to instantly turn stories into radio speak with teases, summaries, responses, and phone topics. It also writes your web blogs and social content for you, and now is an API to integrate directly into web platforms, so it's even faster to post. I have multiple clients that use it, and all of them rave about it. Use my referral link to sign up. It's in the show notes, or you can get to it by going to radiostationconsultant.com, and I'll give you a free 30-minute session to give you tips and tricks on how to get the most out of it. Now let's get into today's episode. If you have any questions or thoughts after watching or listening, email them to me at andy@radiostationconsultant.com or editor@radioupdate.com, and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. If you're an old school radio guy like myself, when you think of a studio, you probably think of a roughly 10-foot by 12-foot room with thick, well-insulated walls that are probably double sheetrocked with sound treatment on those walls, monitor speakers in the corner, a large piece of studio furniture with a big console and a couple mics and mic processors on it. It's probably lit a little less than it should be to set the vibe, and a couple of screens for the automation, the internet, and maybe a Vox Pro computer or something to record phone calls. That's been our go-to setup for so long, it's hard for many of us to wrap our minds around how to change it, which is why I've written and talked a lot about how I think radio should adjust that model and modernize radio studios to maximize content creation. But the other way that old school studio mindset holds us back is getting comfortable recording and going live in less than ideal conditions. Part of the reason broadcasting is losing so much of its market share to new media creators is because this is the studio they started in. And now that handheld studio has a really good 4K camera in it, and you can plug a USB mic like a Shure or a Rode into it with processing that makes it broadcast quality. Plus, those same USB mics and an affordable 4K webcam can be added to any laptop to create a little more elaborate but still very portable studio in a hotel room, a quiet room in the back of an empty bar or restaurant, sitting on a patio on a day that isn't that windy in a part of the world without a lot of ambient noise, or parked on the side of the road in your car. That and utilizing tools like Riverside, which I'm using to record this podcast and every podcast I do, is how these new media folks are capable of going live or recording with or without guests multiple times per day, every day. They're lapping us with topical content and owning the attention economy because they've mastered the immediacy of creating modern content. That's annoying because immediacy has traditionally been radio's bread and butter because our turnaround time was faster than other forms of media like print and TV. If we're open to redefining what a studio is, radio can reclaim immediacy and get our fair share of creator economy dollars. Sadly, many modern radio stations don't even have a single studio anymore because so many stations are sharing studios now to save money since so few stations have live and local talent anymore. When in reality, modern radio stations could all have a handful of studios all over town. Because every radio station vehicle should be an audio-video studio now, all on-air talent should have their own audio-video home studios along with a travel setup, and there's no reason not to have a few studio setups at key advertiser locations now as well, since that's also a way to generate revenue. I could see active stations in medium and large markets having literally hundreds of studios throughout their markets. I get it, because I'm guilty of that old-school studio mindset myself. I've spent thousands going to conventions and lugged a 100-pound bag full of gear with me and still been unhappy with the sound quality or the lighting and left with little or no content created, certainly not as much as I should have created. We all have to change our mindset. Because the truth is, what constitutes a studio is being redefined every couple of months now as gear gets better and cheaper at a much faster rate. There is a huge appetite for content now because of how many platforms there are and all the ways for people to consume content anywhere and everywhere now. That's why I always encourage everyone I talk to create more content because no traditional radio broadcaster I know, myself included, is creating enough content considered the training and skills we all have behind a mic. Are all of us great on camera? No, of course not, because that world is new to most of us. But like anything, we just need reps. I've been creating video content for 7 years now, and I still have a lot to learn. But every time I read a comment or someone gives me feedback that hurts my feelings or makes me self-conscious, I remind myself that while I've been on the radio and behind a mic for 40-plus years now, because I started as a kid, I'm still new to video. Instead of being a perfectionist and an audio snob, I need to be more open to creating content in less than perfect situations and use my experience to help me make the best of situations to create the highest quality content possible regardless of the circumstances. A quick pat myself on the back example where I had some personal growth. In 2024, I moderated a panel at NAB in New York for the first time, and I know not to assume that all of the sessions are recorded audio and video, so I took a couple Mevo starts with me and rushed to quickly set them up between sessions to bank my panel so I could put up the video on my consulting website and pull reels from that video to share to social. But the one closest to the stage got accidentally turned off a few minutes in, and the wide shot I set up by the sound guy in the back had terrible audio, so I didn't use it, and I came home with nothing, kicking myself for not taking the audio out of the soundboard or bringing a third Mevo start for redundancy. Flash forward to last year when I put together and moderated 2 panels for TAB, the Texas Association of Broadcasters. I brought all 3 Mevos this time, but the hotel Wi-Fi was giving me fits, and I hadn't brought my Verizon gateway like I should have, so I couldn't get the Mevos to work. Instead of saying, forget it, I used my iPhone and asked if 2 of the panelists would loan me theirs, which they kindly did because they also wanted to video the panel themselves. Then I did the same for the second panel I moderated. So instead of walking away with nothing, I had a 3-camera shoot of the panel with reasonably good audio because I just picked the phone that captured the best live audio and cleaned it up a bit in post. Was it perfect? Since I didn't have time to play with everyone's phone settings, no. But it kept me from missing a great opportunity to capture content yet again. So to answer the question, in my opinion, a studio is anywhere a broadcaster with a mic and a camera is. But what do you think? How do you define what a studio is in 2026, and how have your studios evolved over the years? Email me at andy@radiostationconsultant.com or editor@radioupdate.com and let me know. As always, if you have some thoughts you'd like to share on this or any other hot radio topic, submit an article about it by emailing submissions@radioupdate.com. Thanks for listening, watching, and reading. We'll be back next week with a new episode of Radio Influencers. Radio Influencers is a Radio Update production. New episodes are released on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern.